So, Stephen, welcome to the Integrity Ireland database. You're on time. If you wouldn't mind telling us your story.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, I'm just going to tell one aspect of a very convoluted story that has embroiled our family in problems with the authorities for some years now. But this one particular incident, during a campaign of harassment against my family and I, there were some 723 individual instances where we were threatened, where false ads were put up on the internet, where I was being profiled online as either a homosexual or some sort of a sexual deviant, and other such very disturbing attacks. And these went on for a period of about 18 months. Now, naturally, we told the guards about it, and they volunteered to us. We will look into this, and we will be going for prosecutions when we catch these people. And of course, we completely trusted the guards, as any normal person would. It was some time later that we would discover that not only were the guards not doing the investigations, but they were actively conspiring against our interests to deceive us into believing that they were. They were actually putting a great deal more effort into covering up, or trying to cover up the crimes and cover up the fact that they weren't doing investigations than would have been required to actually, to do the investigations properly in the first place. And one of the most alarming aspects of this was when we wrote to the DPP's office, the Director of Public Prosecution. Now, at the time, it was a man called James Hamilton was the DPP, and the person below him was Claire Loftus. She was the head of the Directing Division. Now, today, Claire Loftus is the DPP. She's ascended to that position. But at the time, she was the head of Directing Division, and we wrote to her a couple of times asking if they could give us an update on where these investigations were, because the guards had told us that they had 9 criminal investigations were underway. And then we received a letter from the Chief Superintendent, Thomas Curley, from Castlebar, stating in black and white, unequivocal terms, we have arrested, detained and questioned a suspect in this case, in that case, in this case, in that case. 5 different cases that he mentioned where suspects have been arrested, detained and questioned with a view to prosecuting them under Section A, B and C of this and the other Act. We were glad to hear this because we'd had to have a couple of interviews with the guards up to that point, trying to find out what's going on. 18 months and these investigations don't seem to be going anywhere. Nobody could produce a single file to show us that there was a real investigation going on. Having become alerted to the fact that there was something amiss here, I'd started to record conversations when I was in Garda interviews and the like. And it was through this material that we began to realise something was seriously amiss. But anyway, this was in and around November 2011, I believe, 2012. We had contacted the DPP, and the DPP had told us, we don't have to answer your questions in so many words. They said that we had to direct all our questions through the local guards. We pointed out, well, look, the website says if you were a victim of crime, we're allowed to come and ask the status of the investigations. And up to a certain extent, you're allowed to tell us what's going on. But they wouldn't even give us the name of one designated individual who was dealing with our cases, because we were concerned that these reports were coming from the guards and that the DPP might not know that they were all part of this collective campaign of harassment against us. Anyway, we then instructed our solicitor to subpoena Claire Loftus to the local court in Castlebar during one of the civil case hearings, in order to just give them a bit of a start and make them realise that we were serious, we wanted some answers. And the next thing we knew, Claire Loftus had written to us telling us that she could confirm that Westport Gardaí had sent files, recently was the term she used, recently sent files to the DPP for actioning, and that the DPP had processed and issued instructions on those files. Naturally, we asked, what were your instructions? Fully expecting that they were going to prosecute the people responsible for these horrendous crimes, which included death threats, specific death threats against myself, my wife and my children. The information we got from the local Gardaí was the instructions from the DPP are not to prosecute. Now, to say that I was amazed, astonished, bewildered, all in one go would not be an understatement. Anyway, as luck would have it, I was on the phone to my solicitor. She was talking to me on the landline when a phone call came in from a Garda sergeant who was overseeing these complaints. And in the conversation with me where he tells me the DPP has decided not to prosecute, I say, how on earth what does a person have to do in this country to get prosecuted? Why aren't you taking some action? And he lets slip the fact that the files that were sent to the DPP's office contained no named suspects. Now, I've got this recorded. I've got it in a recording. I went back to him and I said, well, how can you be sending empty files to the DPP? I've since consulted with an assistant commissioner and a senior detective of guards who have told me off the record that this is impossible, this shouldn't happen. I also wrote to the DPP and said, how can you be issuing instructions not to prosecute nobody? Of course, there was this flurry of activity behind the scenes. The guard said, oh, we've now sent the names of the suspects to the DPP after all. We wrote again to the DPP. They said, our position hasn't changed. We've already stated our position. We've got nothing further to add. That's the end of the matter. That's what they thought, because I've been chasing it up ever since. Now, I've brought this issue to the attention of everyone from the Garda Commissioner, well, actually everybody, the superiors of the various police involved, the Garda Commissioner, the Minister for Justice, various TDs, and even Enda Kenny himself, because Enda Kenny lives less than 3 miles from me and he is my constituency TD. I also ran it past Paul Reynolds at RTE, and he threatened me with defamation, believe it or not, for mentioning the names of these people. The long and the short of it is that nobody wants to see or hear that evidence. That is not until today. And I'm about now to go and meet a journalist and share this evidence firsthand with them. Let's hope something's going to get done.